Hello everyone, I'm Haowen Huang, a Senior Developer Advocate at AWS. Welcome to the second segment of our two-part series on deploying DeepSeek efficiently on AWS. In part 1, I provided a technical overview of DeepSeek, covering its training pipeline, architecture optimization, and infrastructure improvements. There's a well-known Chinese saying that states, "True knowledge comes from practice." Following this wisdom, in part 2, we will focus on practical implementation. And this is the agenda for this session. For those who haven't watched my previous video about DeepSeek architecture, as shown in the green text in the slide, I suggest you watch the previous session's recording to get the basic knowledge of this part. In this session, we will focus on how to efficiently deploy DeepSeek models on AWS. I will introduce 4 deployment methods, including deployment through Amazon Bedrock Marketplace, deployment using Amazon Bedrock imported models, deployment while Amazon SageMaker AI Jumpstart, and how to perform private deployment on EC2. Actually, there are other deployment methods on AWS that are more suitable for large-scale production environments, such as deploying DeepSeek models on EKS, etc. Regarding this part, my colleagues will have dedicated sessions to cover these topics specifically. First, I will introduce 2 methods of deploying DeepSeek models on Amazon Bedrock. In my opinion, the easiest way to deploy DeepSeek R1 model on AWS is through the Amazon Bedrock Marketplace. The Amazon Bedrock Marketplace provides access to over 100 foundation models, ranging from popular to specialized options, in addition to its existing connections of industry-leading models. Through a single catalog, users can discover, subscribe to, and deploy these models on managed endpoints. I will now guide you through the step-by-step process of deploying the DeepSeek R1 model through the Amazon Bedrock Marketplace. First of all, to access the DeepSeek R1 model in Amazon Bedrock Marketplace, go to Amazon Bedrock console and select the model catalog under the Foundation Models section. You can quickly find DeepSeek by searching or filtering by model providers. After reviewing the model details page, which includes the model's capabilities and the implementation guidelines, you can deploy the model by specifying an endpoint name, selecting the number of instances, and choosing an instance type. With this deployment method, the model endpoint will be hosted in Amazon SageMaker, but will be accessible through Amazon Bedrock. Once deployed, you can easily locate it in the Amazon Bedrock console, which I will demonstrate in the next slide. After the deployment, you can quickly test the model in the playground through the UI. And of course, you can also invoke the deployed model with Amazon Bedrock APIs and integrate the large language model capabilities with your existing applications as well. You will find a detailed documentation about deploying DeepSeek using the Amazon Bedrock Marketplace in the reference sections at the end of my session, which will also include information about how to invoke the deploy the model using Emerald Bedrock APIs. Another way to deploy DeepSeek models with Emerald Bedrock is by using Emerald Bedrock's custom model import feature. It's important to note that currently this deployment method only supports the DeepSeek R1 Llama distilled variants in both 8B and 70B sizes. Although the types of models that can be deployed are limited, this deployment method is particularly suitable for entry-level developers who want to try out DeepSeek, as the billing is based on time duration. Let's walk through the complete process of deploying a DeepSeek model using Emerald Bedrock's custom model import feature. First, ensure you have configured the appropriate IAM roles and permissions for both Emerald Bedrock and Emerald S3. You will need the S3 bucket to storing your custom model. Before proceeding, verifying that you have adequate local storage space available, specifically at least 70 GB for a 8B model or 135 GB for the 70B model. Next, we will prepare the model package. Following that, we will execute the model import process into Emerald Bedrock. Lastly, we will test the imported model to verify its proper functionality. This slide demonstrates the successful deployment of the model using this method. For this demonstration, I deployed the DeepSeek R1 Llama distilled 8B model. After deployment, you can access your deployed model in the Emerald Bedrock chat or text playground. To use the model, just select it from the single prompt drop-down menu shown in the interface. You can also find your deployed model in the imported models section of the Emerald Bedrock console. Here is a screenshot showing my successful model deployment. In this slide, I use DeepSeek to generate a set of well-researched interviews questions commonly asked at Fortune 500 companies. You can experience similar results by entering your own prompts into the DeepSeek model. We have now explored two methods for deploying DeepSeek on Emerald Bedrock. As you can see, the deployment process is more straightforward than you might have expected. Next, let's explore the third way to deploy DeepSeek models on AWS. Using Emerald SageMaker Jumpstart to deploy DeepSeek models. Emerald SageMaker Jumpstart is a machine learning hub that provides foundation models which can be deployed with just a few clicks. You can deploy DeepSeek models through Emerald SageMaker Jumpstart using Emerald SageMaker Studio, the SageMaker AI console, or the SageMaker Python SDK as well. To deploy a model using Emerald SageMaker Jumpstart, just select your designed model and click Deploy to create an endpoint with default configurations. The endpoint becomes operational when its status changes to in service, allowing you to send inference requests. Emerald SageMaker provides comprehensive monitoring and control through features such as Emerald SageMaker pipelines for workflow automation and the Emerald SageMaker debugger for performance analysis, and the container logs for troubleshooting. All model deployments operate within your own VPC in the secure AWS environment, ensuring data privacy and security compliance. In addition to the interactive method, you can also deploy the DeepSeek R1 model using the Emerald SageMaker Python SDK as demonstrated in this slide. Next, let's explore how to deploy the DeepSeek model on Emerald EC2, which represents one approach to private deployment. Among the several methods for deploying DeepSeek models on Emerald EC2, two notable options are Docker with Ollama and Docker with VLLM. Due to time constraints, this guide will focus on the Docker with Ollama method. The principles covered here can serve as a reference for understanding other EC2 deployment approaches. Before providing step-by-step instructions, I will share a screenshot of my successful deployment to demonstrate this interactive approach. The screenshot shows a distilled version of the DeepSeek 14B model based on Chain1, which I deployed during the Chinese New Year festival. In just 4 steps, you can create your own interactive interface for a large language model like DeepSeek. Let's begin. First of all, we need to install and configure the NVIDIA drivers on EC2. To verify the NVIDIA drivers have been properly installed and configured on your EC2 instance, run the NVIDIA SMI command as shown in this slide. Then install and start Docker on your EC2 instance. After Docker is installed and its service is running, just configure Docker to work with the NVIDIA drivers by running the commands shown in this slide. Excellent. Now that we have configured both NVIDIA drivers and Docker successfully, let's proceed with installing and configuring the Ollama server. What is Ollama? Ollama is an open source tool that lets you run large language models local on your computer. It makes downloading, running, and using large language models like DeepSeek, Llama, and the Mixture simple. After installing and configuring the Ollama server, you can proceed to the most interesting part, pulling the DeepSeek model from the Ollama library. You might wonder what files are actually downloaded when pulling a model from the Ollama libraries. Actually, this is a very good question. In summary, you download several key components. For example, model weights, model configuration files, tokenizer files, metadata, and related resources. These files are automatically managed by Ollama and stored in its specific directory structure on your local system. After successfully downloading the model, we can now interact with DeepSeek R1, as shown on this slide. When I enter the prompt, tell me the historic allusion and background of the Chinese New Year, the model provides detailed information about the origins and the traditions of the Chinese New Year celebrations. Let's explore the various deployment options for DeepSeek models on AWS. Each deployment method offers distinct advantages for specific use cases. Amazon Bedrock provides serverless deployment with token-based billing, while Bedrock Marketplace delivers a serverless deployment with instance-based billing. Bedrock Custom Model Import employs serverless architectures with usage-based billing, and Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart excels in fine-tuning and continuous training with enhanced flexibility, while EC2 or Trainier or Inferential Ways offers serverless deployment with optimal cost-performance ratio. These deployment options empower developers to make informed decisions when implementing DeepSeek models in enterprise environments, enabling effective integrations of GenAI capabilities into their own applications. And this slide showcases the key resources used in preparing this presentation. If you are interested in learning more about DeepSeek, developing general AI, or building large language model-based applications, I encourage you to explore these resources for hands-on learning and practical implementation guidance. I encourage you to sign up for an AWS Build ID to access valuable resources such as Amazon Q Developer, AWS Skill Builder, Community.aws, and more. Your AWS Build ID can also be linked to AWS training and certification, creating a comprehensive platform for your AWS learning journey. And this concludes today's presentation. I regularly share the insights about GenAI and large language models through blog posts and videos on LinkedIn and YouTube. So I invite you to follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe to my YouTube channel for ongoing discussion and knowledge sharing. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to connecting with you.